right, it's morning huddle time. Good morning.
No, I'm not saying it works.
I wish you
I'm just saying
Godspeed.
it happens.
I Godspeed with all of that. I think that's really, really nice. I'm not sure what kind of success you're going to have with that today, because the world, my friend, has changed.
Right.
Latin American construction workers, they have different needs. They have completely different needs.
These awards have a huge criteria that you have to fill out, and they usually have a community service or community relations portion.
Makes them, the most productive with a high performance value. Sometimes it's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Funny, isn't it? Yeah, not for me.
Not for me.
At 11 o'clock, I am guaranteed to be snoring. So. It's morning huddle time. Good morning. I'm Chad Prinky. I'm here as always alongside co-host and producer Stacy Holzinger. Stacy, how are you this lovely morning?
Good morning. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's our last episode of season 4 today, so we're happy to have Phil.
Phil, thank you so much for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. I feel honored to be part of this 50th episode. Well, I got to tell you, I felt honored, and last night I started thinking about it in a different way. I'm like, why did he wait so long to ask me to be on the show? But either way, I'm going to take the positive thing. I'm glad I'm here.
I would only focus on that, Phil. Don't get in your head about the other thing.
Right? Okay, I got it.
So Phil Key is the president of Ruppert Landscape. Ruppert is, this is. Stacy does an incredible job of booking all of our guests. Like, really, she's amazing at finding great people who for the most part, I have no idea who they are. And she brings them on, and I learn so much and build relationships. It's been awesome. Every now and again, I get to contribute, and I've been able to wrangle Phil and get on his calendar and get him here to join us this morning. Ruppert's been a long time, I don't know, Phil, 12-year or so client of mine and relationship. I've been fortunate enough to be along for the ride, and Phil, I think, is going to come on today and give us an opportunity to take a look inside their business, take a look inside Ruppert Landscape. A little bit of context for Ruppert. Ruppert is a commercial-only landscape contractor. They've got a maintenance division, they've got an installation division, and the installation division is doing construction projects all over the country, some of the largest landscape and hardscape installs that you'd want to see. I think at recent count, about 2,000 or 2,100 employees, something like that, Phil?
Just got out of a meeting this morning. We are 5 short of 2,000, so we're almost at 2,000.
1955. You think this summer might scale up 5 people, or do you have that room?
So it's really 1995, but I knew you were never totally good at math. Yeah.
Yeah, not a strength. Math and listening. Neither of those really.
I can tell you this: we need the people. Now we got to find them and hire them. So we're not slowing down the hiring.
Excellent. Yeah. So, and we'll spend some time talking about that. And something across like 10 states.
Fair.
Does that sound right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, aside from the major projects in
Oklahoma, we jump out to do other projects, but call it 10 states that we're permanently in.
And so Ruppert started, and this is, I think, for, like, big picture, this is really just an opportunity from my perspective to talk about some of the things that make Ruppert special, but to do that in a way that, educates and brings a lot of value to the audience in general. I think for context, we'll talk about the history of Ruppert for a second. Ruppert started in the early 70s. Is that right?
Correct.
And then that's Ruppert 1. So talk to us about what. So there was Ruppert 1, there's Ruppert 2, and now we're on Ruppert 3. A lot has happened. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you catch us up on it rather than me, going through my recollection.
We started in early 70s, probably kind of got going in the 80s. It took a while to ramp up. I actually joined in '85, so I missed some of the very beginning. But the very beginning had to do with figuring out what kind of services we wanted to offer. We started in residential and then slowly moved to commercial. Kind of mid '80s was when we first started the branching structure. So we had our second branch, and so really from early '70s to mid '80s, we were working out of one location, just trying to figure things out, like everybody else. How do we get new customers? How do we produce the work for those new customers? How do we collect the money, make sure we got payroll met each week? Those are the kind of things we're worried about. And as certain things started working, we tried to replicate them.
That's awesome. So the business builds in that first iteration, really based on this whole decentralized concept, the branch model. Every branch kind of runs like its own business. Best practices get shared amongst branches, and you grow. In 1998, Ruppert sells.
Right. So we sell to Service Master. There was a consolidation in the industry at the time, and we felt, on one hand, we felt a little threatened. At the time, we were doing just under $50 million in revenue, which still made you a top 10 landscaper in the country. But obviously very fragmented. We were still relatively small, and as these different entities were rolling up the industry, we did feel threatened a little bit. Like, would we be able to compete against these larger companies? But plus, there was opportunity for our employees. We figured we wanted to be part of this. It was going to be a big kind of change in the industry, and so that's what kind of triggered us at that time to move forward.
And so in '98, Ruppert sells, and where do you go, by the way, during that time? What's your job for the next X years?
So I stayed at our new company of True Green Land Care, and I was part of that for 9 years. But different things happened. The consolidator, which was Service Master at the time, was really buying a bunch of different companies, and then after they did that, they realized the landscape installation portion of the business probably wasn't something they wanted to invest in. So they would start getting rid of services or areas that they weren't interested in. So we saw at that point, I saw a lot of the Ruppert team that I knew in different places.
And eventually Ruppert gets the band back together. Right. And so 5 years after the acquisition, enough Ruppert people are out floating around in the market that there's a conversation to let's get back together and restart this thing. So that's Ruppert 2, right? And Ruppert 2,
correct.
Goes
Ruppert 2
from
started about 2003. Ruppert 2, kind of the first day that the non-compete was over, there was a huge desire for employees to want to get back together and create a team. I think we hired 100 employees from Ruppert 1 the day we could at Ruppert 2, and it was an awesome kind of experience and model, because we've always thought that people are what really drive the business, and we've always said if we had unlimited people, the customers will come. We just got to focus on people. Well, this gave us kind of an opportunity to ramp up really quick, because we knew a lot of people that wanted to come back and start something, and it worked well, because those people really, really, really accelerated our growth. So it was an investment day one, because we didn't really have the work for 100 people, but we knew that would come, and it came very quickly. So that
awesome.
was kind of chapter 2, Ruppert 2.
And yeah, exactly. Up until I guess November, December of 22.
Right. So 5 months ago now, December 1st, we started what we're calling Ruppert 3, our third chapter, which is where we've taken on a majority partner. And I don't know if you want to go into that now or later.
Yeah. Talk about that. What made you do it? Who's the majority partner? Yep. What made you do it, and why did you go with them?
Yep. So first, I'd like to say it was a long process. The first time I went through kind of exploring strategic options, it took about a year. And we analyzed everything from should we be an ESOP, to a debt recapitalization, to maybe a minority partner, to a majority partner. In the end of that, we chose a company named Knox Lane. Really, they're out of San Francisco. They're a young team. They're a small team, 14 people total. This is their first fund. They've got a lot of experience, and they joined together and started their own private equity company. I like the fact that we know all of them. They're small. They and I think, you know, they're passionate about being successful, and they're passionate about culture. They saw that early with us that I think we matched there. It's their first investment in the landscape industry. So, you know, we're their quote platform with which to build on, which I think is good for us. And then we'll get into this a little bit. Well, let me back up. You said kind of why did
you do it in the first place? Here you are, you're going along, you're 2,000 employees, you're assuming making good money, right? Everything's working. You know, why do you look for a partner in the first place? Why do you look to sell?
Yeah. So the obvious answer, which is one of the answers, is it provides some liquidity. It gives you a way to value that's been built up in the company. It gives you a chance to take some of that out of the company. The company was owned, these are rough numbers, but 70% by Craig Ruppert and family and 30% by employees. Okay. But kind of the biggest thing, like that's always a reason, but really succession. Like, who is the ownership group that's going to continue to carry this on? Craig is 69. He's got plans to continue to work less. He's still currently our CEO. He's chairman of our board. You know, he's active in the business every week, but he would like to work less days each week as time goes by. So it was going to give us a chance to do some succession planning. We've extended our ownership group from roughly, so the employee portion I talked about grew from roughly 35 people to 65. So it's virtually allowed us to make anybody who's running an operation, running a location, and up an owner in the company. I think that is super important.
It's incredible. I mean, it's you know, so just to reiterate that, because that was a lot of information. Ruppert 2 had 30 different owners who, you know, were a part of the employee base. When the transaction happened in December, there was an opportunity to create 35 more owners, it sounds like. And so now there's 65 owners who are employees. There's an outside majority partner, and you know, the ownership pool has gotten more diverse.
You got it. The only thing I do want to stress is every employee that was an owner in Ruppert 1 is still an owner in Ruppert 2 is still an owner in Ruppert 3. Both, you know, so they're investing their own proceeds to remain part of what we're calling kind of Ruppert 3 or chapter 3 of this journey.
Awesome. All right, cool. So, man, there's so much in there.
By the way, the only other thing, it allowed us to do two other things. Really allowed us to share some of the proceeds with employees. So anybody that had worked here a year shared kind of in the value that was built. We were able to share some of that, the proceeds that we got, and kind of, you know, we've got a partner that's going to be able to help us continue our growth. So we're growing to provide opportunity for employees. Our growth has averaged roughly 18% from 2003 to now. That's the average, but it's been harder the last 5 or 7 years. I mean, we're still double-digit organic growth, but call it 12 or 13%, which is, you know, less opportunity for employees than when we're growing 30%. I think adding our M&A and adding our partner with M&A experience is going to allow us to get the growth rate back to a little quicker, and that's going to be more opportunity for employees.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Phil just said that they were able to share some of that during the transaction, they were able to share some of the proceeds with the employee base. I read in Washington Business Journal that was somewhere around $28 million. Can you either confirm or deny?
Yeah, no, that's confirmed. That's confirmed.
That's unbelievable. I mean,
it was fun. It was a ton of fun.
I mean, if you're an employee, you've been there a year, you qualified for this pool. I mean, that's a pretty awesome thing to be able to do. And so I
do want to mention this. Sorry to cut you off, but that ownership group I talked about, most of them didn't have voting rights, but we try to move together, and as we contemplated the idea of giving out these bonuses, it really affected every one of their checks in a meaningful way. Of the partners, there was not one person that even hiccuped to, so no pat on the back. I think it's just the right thing to do for the people that created a ton of value. And I think, in an industry that barriers to entry are really low, anybody can go buy a lawnmower and start something up. And with a generation that cares more, about purpose sometimes than just the almighty dollar and kind of where we're going, I think it's important to feel part of something bigger than, just an employee that's getting a paycheck. I know we're still a relatively small ownership group, but I think as long as companies, and again, this is specific to kind of our industry and us, but as long as there's a chance and there's something to work for there, I think it's really kind of a fair game and a fun game.
Awesome. Yeah. And so I want to come back to the acquisition plan that you just kind of referenced for a second, but before we do that, you've created too good of a segue for culture. As you talk about the values, think about what created that moving together. You use that term. I like that a lot. Certainly with the leadership team, but company wide, you guys established values before it was cool. Right? Like it was, and then you all got behind those values. You lived them. You took them really seriously. In 2 or 3 minutes, like what are the values? And then follow-up question to that is, how do you operationalize that? How do you make sure that that's something that we all actually do? And go.
All right. So one, I'm glad about 3 years ago we had 12 values and we changed it to 4 values. Not that we lowered our values, but I couldn't have remembered the 12. It was hard. So the 4 are much easier. I'm prepared to answer that. So look, and it's big picture, respect for one another. So that value is around people. Value the customer. Obviously, customers are super important. The third one is act like an owner, and the fourth is care for our community. It's those 4. People are first, and clearly we talk about people first in front of customers. I hope I don't have any customers on the line here. But look, obviously the equation is, and this is it, everyone says this, so I feel kind of dumb saying it, but if your people are really jacked up and taking care of the customers, you're going to get as many customers as you need. So we really believe that and try to live that. But I will say, kind of chat how they start. I wasn't around when they started, actually. So I came to the company at age 15 in 1985. The company had already been around for 10 years. And the reason I came to the company, because there was a group of, at the time, 3 or 4 guys running it, and I believed in what they were doing. Like, meaning I liked what they talked about. I liked what was important to them. I liked that they were encouraging. They were like good coaches, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
That leadership team really is why I came. And they started documenting over time. I don't think it was till we had our first branch where we decided we needed to actually document the values, and we wrote them down. Like I said, there were 12. They did a good job of articulating kind of who they thought we are. And I would just say to everybody, I think it's hard to write values of who you want to be. It's kind of like if you saw my goal list every year, who I want to be, and I achieve like half of them. I think you got to kind of start with who you are. And there's a bunch of different traits or good cultures that work. But you got to identify what yours is. They documented that. We kind of live it. We try to hire people that fit into that. I mean, there's plenty of good people that may not fit into it. Like, for instance, very, very, very direct culture here. Chad, you've worked with us for years, so you know that. That's super uncomfortable for a lot of people. And other people, need to live that way. They need to be very, very direct. So it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just kind of who you are. And I think, documenting that and having people rally around that is really, kind of the key. And it's not that hard if it's really just who you are.
What I love about that answer is that, in a really nice way that I barely even felt, you basically said, like, we know who we are, and if you want to be a part of that, you're going to love it. And if that's not who you are, it's probably going to be not a great fit. Well, you found 2,000 people for whom it's a good fit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so,
Right.
but that means there's millions for whom it's not. And I think that's
fair.
one of the best things to take away from this, if you're in the audience, is when it comes to really nailing culture and having your values be something that everybody can see and experience inside and outside the business, you have to have the courage to not try to accommodate everybody.
Right. Yeah. And look,
I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah.
I mean that in a way where it's sort of like, what we're not going to do is water down what our core values to make this a comfortable experience for everybody who needs to be here. We're going to try to be, and I know down to a person, you're very open and accepting and all that type of stuff. So I don't mean that to say, you're excluding people. I just mean that to say that you're not gonna negotiate on the things that are most important to you.
No, that's fair. As you were saying that, though, it's not like we have a line out the door, and we're getting to select each employee we want to hire. I mean, it's tough out there. I'm sure everybody's experiencing it. So I totally agree that we don't compromise on our values. We probably do compromise sometimes in the hiring process. We could be more selective, but I think probably it's our style to give people a chance to say, kind of, here's who we are, and that's true, and we hope you find some benefit in that, or like it here.
Yeah. It's well, and let's be honest, a lot of the people that you hire don't know their own values yet. So I'd imagine you probably help to make a lot of them better people, if that makes sense. So well, cool. So let's circle back to then. So we've got we've got values, and we've got culture. And now in Ruppert 3, you're going to do something that you've never really done, which is you're going to start adding large to mid, like, in other words, going concerns. You're going to start acquiring going concerns and adding them to Ruppert's, adding them to your business. It's not that you haven't done any acquisitions in the past, but they've really been, opportunistic. This is a totally different kind of acquisition strategy. Walk us through what the acquisition strategy is, what's the target company profile, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chad. First, our plan is to still grow organically, more so than through acquisition. But we do plan on growing through acquisition, mainly to get into new geographies. So we're looking for companies that are adjacent to geographies where we are. In a perfect world, if I go down kind of the perfect 4 or 5 items, for a potential target, we know that not every target's gonna be able to have all those attributes. But probably first and foremost, we want a culture that will match ours, because we just talked a lot about culture and hiring somewhat for culture. Same with acquiring. If we'd have to bring kind of like-minded folks together, so as not to dilute the culture. That doesn't mean you can't have new ideas. Like, don't confuse that, but they got to feel comfortable kind of within this culture that's built. We're looking for owners that want to stay. So people that want to kind of wash their hands of their business and walk away is not our target. We want people that need help kind of getting to the next level, that want to be part of something bigger. And where we can, share our experiences. We talked about Ruppert One earlier. It took all 25 plus years to kind of learn what we learned, and I'm hoping to help companies come up that learning curve quicker, and they'll be partners, equity partners alongside us and benefit as we move towards Ruppert 4, kind of thing. So people that'll stick with the business, geographies that are adjacent to where we are. We predominantly want to acquire maintenance companies, but obviously we're very comfortable in the installation world and see value in that. But over time, I think when we're acquiring, the maintenance companies make more sense.
Got it. Cool. And as you go through that process, I mean, do you have any feel for the volume of acquisitions that will be happening over a period of time? Do you have any, gut feel for what that's going to look like?
So we've got a plan. We've got a 5-year plan where roughly the business, the contribution to growth would be about 5% through the M&A activities. So in other words, if we're going to grow 12 to 15%, and then you add 5% more in acquisitions, that's kind of our target. Now it's still early in San Francisco, so I hope the private equity partners aren't on the line, because they'd be saying, "Phil, limit yourself." But no, I think that's our game plan. And if you line up this model of how much we have to acquire and how much we have to grow, that gets the return for our investors that we're targeting. So if we can do better, we'd get better returns. And if we do worse, it's not as good of an investment. So.
Yep. Makes total sense. All right.
So the numbers, Chad, what does that mean? Depending on their size, maybe 2 to 3 a year. Maybe that,
okay, cool. Thank you. That's good. Yeah. Somewhere along those lines. That's and adjacent markets, just for I'll talk out loud about it. You're in Maryland, you're in Pennsylvania, you're in Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Houston, Nashville, Tennessee. So adjacent markets, I guess, would be for the most part east of the Mississippi.
Yeah, but you got whether it's Virginia Beach or Wilmington or Charleston, you got east, and then obviously, a couple things. One, you mentioned Nashville and Houston. Those are probably our biggest targets because we're doing installation there, but we're not doing maintenance yet. So we'd like to fill that out. We've got a lot of work in Raleigh, North Carolina, less in Charlotte. Charlotte's a big market. We've got 1 location there. So you could argue that there's kind of 2 adjacent markets just in the city of Charlotte. So what I'd say is if there's anybody out there that wants to learn more about it, feel free to reach out to me, whether you're just preparing your company for something in the future or you just want to learn more about it. I'd be happy to talk to them. And I learned a ton over my last year that I did not know.
Yeah, so I'm sure you can add value even if they're not somebody that is interested in necessarily being acquired by Ruppert. How would people reach out to you, Phil? Should they reach out through LinkedIn? Should they reach out through somebody?
I'm on LinkedIn, or you can just go to our website, and I think my contact information is there.
Cool.
Just call me.
Good. All right. Good. Yeah, I mean, when all the way back, in 2011, when I first built a relationship with Ruppert, I was driving down the road. I saw a Ruppert truck, and I thought, man, that's a company I'd like to work with. I picked up the phone. I called the president of the company. It was Chris Davitt. And I said, this is gonna be the weirdest call you've ever had, Chris. I just saw a truck that spoke a lot about your image, and I don't know you guys, and I feel like I should. And the rest is history. So they really do take a phone call.
I remember the first time you walked into the conference room, and we're pitching, and that was 11 years ago. So you were like what, 12?
I was 13, and yeah, man.
Chad, hey, formally, thank you for, so these guys helped us with business development years ago, and they did a great job. So thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you. So let's open it up to the audience. Stacy, what questions do we have for Phil before we wrap up?
So I think one of the problems or things that smaller contractors struggle with is they define their values, but then they don't know how to foster the culture after they define the values. Do you have any advice on that?
So yeah, it's hard to. We train on them. I mean, one, document them. I write them down, and that'll give people kind of a reference tool. They got to be just like safety. They got to be kind of part of your everyday dialogue. I think just talk about them, especially if you're smaller and you're in one location. You could talk about them, kind of constantly, and it's a little bit easier, until you start geographically getting expanded or whatever. And I'd say, just as a leader, like the leaders have to act through them. No one's going to be perfect every day, but the leadership has to believe in it enough that they're not, they're kind of walking the walk. They're following the values that they've outlined. Hey, and it's all right. Like, it's got to be the kind of environment where you can call out the top person if they're not. The values are really supposed to be like, I'd call it, I think it's the best governance for a company. It helps people make good decisions around running the business. And that means everybody's got to be accountable to those, no matter what position you're in. So being open to feedback as a leader to be like, all right, gotcha. I probably was off kilter there. And I think the values help there.
I think that's such a great point. You go ahead. I'm sorry, Stacey.
No, I was just going to say, when you first came up with the values, I know it was like before you were on board. Did those values change over time? Do you tweak them to fit different periods or generations?
Well, I would say, yeah. So we do a 5-year plan every 4 years. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but anyway, that's the way we do it. And we always start with mission, vision, values. Let's check those. Any words we want to change, anything we want to, make kind of more modern. But I'll tell you, kind of specific to your question, things like, I'll use innovation. In the early years, innovation wasn't one of our values. We didn't think about it. We were just trying to get the work done. We weren't going to like sit back and think creatively about a way to do something different. We added that one, call it 15 years ago. So when I say added, we have 4 values, but there's kind of subsections that fall underneath those. So yeah, they've grown. They've kind of expanded over years. We didn't have money to invest in innovation in the early years. We didn't even want to think about it. We just copied off of the big guys. Yeah, and so I'd say they've changed, but it sounds a little bit weird. You're like, have your values changed over the years? It's like, well, your values are kind of in here, so they stay very consistent, but they're tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, good to know. I don't know, anything else you can think of, Chad?
No, I think I think we can wrap up here. It's been an awesome conversation, Phil. I think if any contractor is following this story and thinking about how they want to grow, how they want to capitalize on opportunities to bring in outside investment, to potentially sell, to all the things that are incorporated in the story you've shared with us today. You've given a fantastic kind of roadmap for some of the ways that you guys have navigated through it. So and I love that you're open and interested in hearing from anybody who has more questions. That's awesome. So no, I think thank you for being with us for episode 50.
Man, I'm figuring out our viewership was only like 10, so I could take that many calls. It's fine.
Well, yeah, the live viewership is the recorded viewership, and maybe a very different number. Very different number. Be careful what you wish.
No, I know. Don't put out your phone number or anything.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for that.
No, this has been fun. I appreciate working with both of you this morning on this. It's been fun.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you, Phil. We'll let you get going. Stacy and I have a little bit of housekeeping to tend to before we wrap up. We'll see you soon. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
See ya.
All right, Stacy.
All right.
So season 4 in the books. Boom. 12 episodes. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of fun. What was the biggest thing you learned this season?
Oh man, you're always gonna put me on the spot, huh?
Of course I do. Yeah.
There's so many great people this year. I can't even put it. Just the topics are just getting crazier and crazier, and I've already got August pretty much booked up. I am interested to talk about AI and how that is involved in our past episodes. I don't know. Mental health with Rex was really cool. That seems to be a really popular topic now. I'm so excited that we're changing the way we're thinking about mental health, because especially in our industry, it's such a stigma. That's been a big one for the past since COVID. Really, people are really taking that seriously.
I agree, and I think there have been a lot of positive strides there. My biggest, as I reflect on this season, I think the biggest thing I learned was that there are viable alternative methods to integrated project delivery that are happening and happening successfully while not making the headlines, which I thought was that was really good information from Genesis and from those guys that came on and talked. I knew everything in Phil's story, though I would imagine all of our audience was learning a ton through that conversation. So we're back in August. Dates to come. I think August 1st is our first. So keep your eyes peeled and obviously let us know if you have anybody or if you yourself would like to be a guest and have a story about creating some positive change in the building industry. And just a reminder that Stacy and I will both be at the NAWIC Northeast Conference this year on May 5th, which is Friday, May 5th, around noon. We'll be hanging out and live streaming from that event. So if you want to get some time with us and say hello there, please do. We'd love to see you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We will see you in several weeks while Stacy and I reload and come back for season 5, ready to go.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I can't believe it's been 4 seasons.
Same here. This was always supposed to just be a 6-episode mini series, Stacy. I want to remind you of that. All right. Thanks so much. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Keep going until the wheels just come off this summer. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much. See you, Stacy. Thanks, everyone.